Opposition now wants a constitution that allows for sharing of power between president and prime minister. Haven't we been there before?
Postgraduate trainee doctors withdraw services from Kenyatta National Hospital as brain surgery mix-up saga continues.
And Kiambu Governor Clifford Ndungu Ferdinand Waititu sues his Kitui counterpart Charity Ngilu in spat over charcoal.
I'm certain that script did not have all those names for the Kiambu Governor.
Self-edit.
Majina yake kamili. Clifford Ndungu Ferdinand Waititu.
Baba yao.
Their father.
Good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast this lovely Tuesday morning. At least it's dry here in Nairobi today. It didn't rain overnight.
Yes, it did, but
at least where I come from, it didn't.
The aftermath. You go mad,
yes,
cold.
That will stay for a while.
But it goes as we were told just a few weeks ago, you were complaining, drought, which way Kenya?
Which way Kenya?
Then now we should just be content with the rains.
Yes, the biggest headline this morning, Raila team roots for Boma's power sharing formula. Boma's, you remember that draft, you remember the orange banana debate? Yes, where it was a no. We went to the referendum back in 2005. Now, it appears that we might go back there, at least according to what the NASA team wants us to do. On the back page of the Daily Nation, over 600 million shillings for courts wasted. Wow. We keep complaining about money, but we keep wasting. More wastage, auditors trail on how 10 billion shillings went to waste. Yeah. And then governor's treasury in new war over cash. It's all about money today.
It's all about money. Money matters.
Show me the money.
I think 10 billion looks like it looks good on paper, but
well, for government, you know what it means. The allocation for the entire health ministry does not even get
10
B.
I think it does. Yes, we'll be looking at those headlines and a lot more with my news review team starting in a few minutes.
You got your man cave?
Yes, man cave is on today. And today we're talking about test driving the vehicle before purchase.
Which vehicle?
It's man cave.
I have a feeling.
It cannot be the...
It's not a motor vehicle.
Not a motor vehicle. But before purchase, una test drive.
Right.
Wow.
And so, just before that, for your lifestyle and health tips, today we'll be talking about microscalping, also known as micropigmentation, which is a new way to deal with baldness.
Snap.
Yeah. I don't know. So you can kind of fix your hairline if it's receding a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I bring it forward? Can I bring it forward like mine?
Yes,
can I bring it
absolutely.
Yeah.
Should be an interesting chat. Feel free to get in touch with us on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag #PowerBreakfast with your comments and views. Our personal handles as well.
Mine is at Freddy Ndimuli.
At Joey_Muthengi.
Mine is at Willis Rabu.
Kenyatta National Hospital yesterday descended into further crisis after 700 doctors withdrew their services to protest the suspension of a neurosurgeon implicated in the brain surgery mix-up. The hospital, which serves about 1,000 patients every day, is in the spotlight of a series of lapses that saw a brain operation performed on the wrong patient. Wilkis Tanyabwa reports.
On Monday morning, the country's largest referral hospital suffered yet another blow. 4 days after the hospital confirmed that surgeons had performed head surgery on the wrong patient, 700 doctors pursuing their postgraduate studies, usually referred to as registrars, withdrew their services from Kenyatta National Hospital. The doctors protesting the suspension of their colleagues after the mix-up.
And today, over the 700 doctors in training who are actually the backbone of people who work at the emergency and accident theaters, we will from today have resolved that they will no longer continue to work without their supervisors, who are also their teachers, and because also then the system does not protect them.
And that wasn't all. The registrars have also withdrawn their services from Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital until the two institutions address the systemic issues blamed in part for the mix-up. Immediately after the incident, the hospital suspended 4 members of staff, namely the neurosurgeon, the ward nurse, the theatre receiving nurse and the anesthetist. The hospital, however, took no action against the consultant surgeon under whose supervision the procedure should have been carried out, a fact that has raised eyebrows.
Kenyatta National Hospital relies on workers that are actually not theirs. They don't pay them, then they purport to suspend. You can't suspend someone who you never employed in the first place, like the neurosurgery resident that they and even the other staff that they claim to have suspended did not come here courtesy of Kenyatta National Hospital. They came here courtesy of the University of Nairobi. So we want to make it very clear to Kenyatta National Hospital Board that, by the way, they have to reinstate them unconditionally.
Kenyatta National Hospital is a dead hospital. Let's just be honest with each other. The system is not functional.
The withdrawal of services by registrars at the country's largest referral hospital now throws another spanner in the works at a facility that has already seen its CEO suspended following a mix-up. The Surgical Society of Kenya backing the doctors. Dr. Peter Mthumba, the president of the society, appealed for calm while calling for an audit to identify gaps in the system and how to resolve them. As the blame game continues, the crisis continues to deepen. Kenyatta National Hospital serves over 1,000 patients daily, with the registrars doing the bulk of the work. The boycott meaning thousands of patients will miss out on vital services in coming days.
Yeah, story is also on the dailies this morning on the Daily Nation, page 8, doctors down tools over KNH Saga. The story is also on page 8. Wow, what a coincidence. On page 8 of the Standard as well. Crisis as 700 Kenyatta National Hospital medics go on strike. That story on page 8 of the Standard runs alongside another to do with medical negligence. Many suffer in silence as operations end badly. Communication breakdown, illegible documentation and failure to adhere to safety procedures blamed for procedures going wrong. On Twitter, the conversation continues, mostly from media houses, but there's one tweet here by Robert Alai. At Robert Alai, he says, the 700 registrars at KNH should be sacked since they value incompetence more than anything else. Any staff member who rallies behind an incompetent colleague deserves a sack. Wow, interesting. To help us go through this discussion this morning, we do have Samuel Oroko, the National Chairperson, Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, KMPDU. Good morning, karibu sana Bwana Oroko.
Thank you. Good
Just
morning.
watched you on TV asking your members to stay away from KNH and at least Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret. We're talking about the registrars. There was confusion about what exactly registrars are. Let's start from there. Who exactly are these registrars?
Thank you. Usually in our training, when you finish the university, you go for internship, which you do for 12 months. After internship, you qualify as a medical practitioner, a pharmacist or a dentist, and you are given a license to practice.
Yes.
You practice as a general practitioner. Now, if you want to specialize, become a surgeon, a neurosurgeon, a pediatrician, then you go for postgraduate training in your area of specialty. So while you are in training, you are called a registrar.
Okay.
So a registrar is basically a qualified doctor who is on transition from general practice into a specialty.
Okay. So the understanding is that this, because 700 of them are quite many, that's a very huge number. What exactly do they do? We could still call them trainee doctors. They are qualified doctors, practitioners, but they are in training. Yes? What exactly do they do at Kenyatta Hospital?
First, they are not trainee doctors. They are what we call the residents. They're in the residency program. So what they do on a daily basis is that during their training, because medicine is hands-on practice, so in their training, they are also seeing patients. They are treating patients, operating patients, however, under supervision. the arrangement between Kenyatta National Hospital and the University of Nairobi is a bit complex, because these registrars are supposed to have supervision, but in Kenyatta National Hospital, they are actually the ones who provide services, and they are not paid for that service. But Kenyatta benefits because the people come there, they pay, but the registrars are not being paid for the work which they do. Yeah.
Okay, and because 700 of them are quite a huge number, at Kenyatta National Hospital, we are looking at, and I'm reading straight from page 8 of the Standard, emergency services at Kenyatta National Hospital may be grounded after about 700 registrars boycotted work. So basically, they cut across all the departments of the hospital, emergency ward services.
You know, there are many specialties. There is surgery, there is obstetrician. That's where they deal with matters who are giving birth. There is pediatrics, the babies who are sick. We also go to surgery. In surgery, we have many disciplines in surgery. There is head and neck, what we call ENT. And then there is ophthalmology, who deal with the eyes. There is a neurosurgeon, in this case which we are talking about. General surgery. You go to other fields, there are many. Pharmacists are there in different fields. Dentists who deal with the teeth. So many fields.
All these, from all those different departments, have withdrawn their services? From
all those different departments have withdrawn. However, I want to make it clear to the public, because I think there's a confusion on the primary objective of their withdrawal. Let it be known that from 1st of March this year, the lecturers have been on strike. And we have lecturers who are as well medical practitioners, dentists and pharmacists, who are members of KNBDU. Remember, last year, on 14th of March 2017, KNBDU signed an agreement with the government where we agreed on some clinical allowance for teaching staff who are in the medical schools. This money has never been paid to the lecturers to date. Also, the WASU called for a strike because their CBA has not been signed. So it's a twin strike of KNBDU and the WASU. So specifically for KNBDU, we are demanding that the government pays our lecturers the money as agreed, because they haven't been paid. So since these lecturers are the ones who supervise the registrars we are talking about, we saw it good for the safety of the public, because if you are on training, you cannot work without your supervisor.
Okay.
So the supervisors have been away from 1st of March. We thought the government could be able to resolve this crisis earlier. Now they haven't been resolved. The lecturers continue to stay away. The residents, registrars are working alone, so they have withdrawn.
Wow.
Due to lack of their supervisors. That is the primary reason why they have withdrawn.
Yes.
And now this
are you saying that even that case of a mix-up in brain surgery, the fact that it ended up a different patient, the wrong patient ended up undergoing a surgery, that it was caused by lack of supervision? That probably the registrar who was there should have been supervised by a senior doctor or a lecturer, but the supervisor wasn't available. Is that what you're saying?
So, remember I said the arrangement between Kenyatta National Hospital and the University of Nairobi is complex. As a facility which is charged with the responsibility of dealing with the referral cases, Kenyatta National Hospital ordinarily should be having its own employees who see the patients who come to Kenyatta. But you get this arrangement where the University of Nairobi registrars are left to do this work.
Unsupervised?
Sometimes, yes, unsupervised. In this case, even if the University of Nairobi lecturers are withdrawn, we expect that the Kenyatta National Hospital employees should be able to be available to deal with the issues that are in theater and to supervise whoever is working there. And even before this case came up, the withdrawal already had been planned. We had arranged to have a meeting yesterday. This mix-up came in the process.
You're
so I'm saying
you had already planned to
we had already planned to withdraw.
But what kind of effect,
what
kind of effect does this withdrawal have on a hospital like KNH? As you say, it should be expected that a hospital of that stature should have its own members of staff to take care of everything. But is that the fact at Kenyatta National Hospital, given that you are a union leader? Is that a fact at Kenyatta National Hospital that they do have enough staff to do that work, if at all these ones withdraw?
Yeah, so I think I want to dissect this more about Kenyatta National Hospital. For a long time we have said that the system in Kenyatta needs to change, beginning with the human resource. We feel the staff in Kenyatta are not enough. And for a long time, Kenyatta has not employed more specialists to deal with emergencies. They rely on the registrars who are under the university to deal with emergencies. Number two, capacity. The number of theaters in Kenyatta are few. There are 12 against about 30 patients who need operation at any given time. So you get that there are patients in the ward who are waiting to go to theater because of no space. In the process, some lose their lives. Number three, identification system, which brought up this mix-up. You get that the patient comes and they get the name and they don't take any further details. And therefore, we feel that in that system, if a patient does a label, because they just put, let me demonstrate, they write the name of the patient on a paper like this, then they stick on the chest of the patient. Then they wheel the patient to theater. Supposing somebody is malicious, in the lift, they remove this, they stick another name. Then what happens? So we think we should be able to use technology. When the patient come in, take their fingerprints, have their photograph, put in the system. In theater, if the patient is unable to identify themselves, because in this case they're confused, he can't even say their name. So you are able to put their fingerprint in the system and be able to identify what you have the correct patient.
But Kenyatta National Hospital is not anywhere close to that as we speak. You in a way admitted that Kenyatta National Hospital does not have its own staff members who are enough to handle this, the hospital. They are over-relying on the registrars.
Thank you.
So now this withdrawal, because now that's the concern. We've come, remember that 100-day strike by doctors and the kind of effect we saw. Now this time round, if you withdraw these registrars, aren't you paralyzing the hospital and probably putting patients at a higher risk this time round?
And that's quite unfortunate, but sometimes this has to happen for systems to change. For any gain, there has to be some friction. It's unfortunate that the patient will suffer. But again, the Constitution has given the government responsibility to ensure that every Kenyan attains the highest possible standard of healthcare. And what we expect, therefore, Kenyatta is one of the many hospitals in Nairobi. So the government should put in place a mechanism to ensure that nobody who needs emergency services in Kenyatta misses out because they are not registrars. They should be able to utilize the other facilities available in Nairobi because they are functional. We have Mbagati, we have Mama Lucy, we have Pumwani, and many other facilities in Nairobi. So they can make use of them as we resolve this issue. But and I think it should not be prolonged because it's a straightforward thing. Lecturers, we agreed, they be paid. And the government signed. And don't want to get this quagmire where government signs documents that they cannot implement. So let them pay as agreed. And the registrar was involved in this. We feel that is being victimized before being heard. The standard medical practice is that you conduct a medical audit before you take action, before you decide whether there was medical negligence. But in this case, we haven't had any audit to come up with a report to show that who was culpable. And as KMBD, you want to say we are not protecting anyone.
But surely, Bonorofo,
you want to have proper investigations. And whoever is responsible should be, action should be taken.
But you do agree that something went wrong?
I agree.
And someone has to be blamed?
I agree.
And the entire team that was around that patient was suspended?
I agree.
Why do you therefore say that this registrar should not be suspended pending the investigation, pending that audit?
I agree. Something went wrong. And as KMBD, we are saying, yes, something went wrong. But then, what is the standard in the medical practice? Before you decide on who is negligent, you have to conduct a medical audit.
So none of those,
which has not happened.
None of those who are suspended should have been penalized.
What we are saying,
they should still be continuing with their work until that audit report.
Yes, that is the standard practice. Because let's also be honest. Healthcare workers are human beings. They make errors, and they have been making errors all over the world. What happens is that you conduct an audit to establish where was the actual mistake, and whoever was found culpable is told to take responsibility. But before you do an audit, I think what we are doing is quite reactionary. Even sacking the CEO of KNH National Hospital, I think is premature. Even you bring a new CEO today, if the system is bad, it's bad. So first, this gives us an opportunity to audit the system and see what can be done different to prevent this from occurring tomorrow. You suspend today, 1 month from now, the same thing happens, you suspend. If you can't rectify the system, then you're not changing anything.
You blame the system so much, but don't you think it could just have been a simple human error that had nothing to do with the system, that someone just neglected to do their job, which they could have done?
I still think that sometimes human errors can be precipitated by the system's failures. So I think looking at the individual and pointing fingers, being quick to say this is the wrong one, as a country, I think we can't progress. The best thing is to say, yes, a mistake happened. What should have been done differently? Where was the problem? How do we improve the system moving forward? Other than verifying the person and being quick to charge the person.
Well, I'm looking at this headline on page 8 of the Standard. Many suffer in silence as operations end badly. As you say, these errors do occur. Communication breakdown, illegible documentation, failure to adhere to safety procedures, blame for procedures going wrong. Now, some of these things, as you say, could be to be blamed on the system, but communication breakdown, illegible documentation, surely some of these things are humanly possible, that someone even in that theater could have done something, probably indicated better, handled something better, because this is a matter of life and death. In any other profession, if you commit an error as a teacher, probably someone will fail an exam. But in hospital, if you commit an error, someone could end up dead. That's the difference. You're saying that this individual should have been allowed to continue working, yet clearly one of them, or just as a group, or something, clearly went wrong.
First, let me say this, that what happened, and I have information on what happened. First, in neurosurgery department, we have 3 registrars. 1 in casualty, 1 in the ward, and 1 in theater. 3 who work 7 hours a day, no, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No time to rest. So this particular day, the one in theater received a patient from the ward with the label, the file, and the scans with names there. The names on the label similar to the file name and the scans name. The patient was confused, so he could not identify himself. In that case, what you do, you rely on the records provided and the label given. When they opened up, they realized there was no blood clot in the brain as per the scans. They called the ward to inquire whether they have the correct patient. This was confirmed, yes, we have the correct patient in theater. They decided to close up to do further scans. After closing is when somebody came and said, we are sorry, that was the wrong patient, it was wrong labeling.
So it was wrong labeling?
Yes, it
from
was
the ward
wrong
level.
Labeling from the ward. And that's what you were saying before you say doctor. You know, in public, people think everybody who works in the hospital is a doctor. But we have many players there, many cadres. So let's not just madaktari. I've done this and that. So that is what happened.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because of time, I'll ask you to give us a way forward on this, because now the 700 registrars have withdrawn their services at Kenyatta National Hospital, meaning the hospital could have been grounded to a halt, not able to offer any services, because, as you admit, Kenyatta National Hospital does not have enough human resource for itself.
Thank you. The way forward is this. Number one, the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta National Hospital, should have a team to review an MOU which they have, because we think it's not working. Number two, the government should be able to pay the lecturers as agreed in the return to work formula of 2017, so that they can come back to work and supervise the registrars to continue working. Number three, the system in Kenyatta National Hospital needs a complete overhaul to be able to be efficient. Number four, we should be able to decongest Kenyatta National Hospital as it is. Decentralize some services, like maternity, build a center of excellence for maternity, build a center of excellence for pediatrics, build a center of excellence for surgery. That way, we'll be able to serve Kenyans well. Because as it is, mothers are sleeping on the floor because of no space. Theaters are full. Patients die while waiting to go to theater. Mothers lose their babies while waiting to go to theater because there's no space. Let's be honest. It's not working. People are dying because there's no capacity. Let's improve our capacity. Let's save lives. Let's save lives which can be saved. Lives are being lost unnecessarily because of lack of infrastructure and lack of enough staff.
Wow. Thank you so much, Samuel Oroko, National Chairperson, Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, KMPDU, telling us more about the fact that 700 registrars, and those are postgraduate doctors in training, have withdrawn their services from Kenyatta National Hospital, meaning the hospital is now in jeopardy. 5 more people have died after they were swept away by floods, bringing the number of people who have lost their lives in flood waters to 10. The Kenya Water Resources Authority has in the meantime advised Kenyans to harness rainwater in the wake of the drought that has left more than 3 million people in need of food aid. Here now is that story.
The situation across the country, Kenyans grappling with flooding following heavy rains that continue to pound the country. In Bomet County, a woman and her child were last evening swept away by raging floods after River Nyangores burst its banks. The same script replicated in Taita Taveta County, where a 96-year-old man died after raging flood swept away his home in Kimala Taveta constituency. Confirming the incident, Taita Taveta County Commander Fred Uchieng said the man was shielding himself when the incident happened. So far, 4 people have died as a result of floods in the country. The death toll nationally now standing at 10, according to the Kenya Red Cross. Areas that have experienced floods are Nyeri County, Magarini in Kilifi County, Emali in Kajiado County, Salama in Makueni County, Mukuru kwa Ruben in Nairobi, as well as Narok and Marsabit counties. The Water Resources Authority urging Kenyans to take advantage of the rains after a prolonged dry season in the country.
But what can we do as a human being? As a country, what can we do? What we can do is to make sure that we store this water, the flood water, properly.
Meanwhile, the government has received 55,000 bags of rice from China to be distributed to millions of Kenyans facing starvation.
The containers are going straight to the SGR and being dispatched. And those that will remain here will also be dispatched immediately. So ours is to assure Kenyans that we have enough food, even as the rain starts.
More than 3 million Kenyans are in dire need of relief food following the prolonged drought.
Deputy President William Ruto has directed Kenya Forest Service to deal firmly with those defying the 3-month ban on logging. Speaking while unveiling the task force meant to review forestry management, Ruto said the government is ready to ensure that the country attains the United Nations recommended 10% forest cover. Jackie Maribe reports.
The crisis the country now faces is in destruction of its forests. Currently, Kenya has only a 6.9% of forest cover, a worrisome downward trend that has seen shrinking water catchment areas, even leading to rationing of water in major towns. But is the moratorium declared by government against logging enough in only 90 days? The crucial question now facing the newly inaugurated 17-member Rapid Response Environmental Task Force.
Part of the docket of this task force would be to consider at the end whether this moratorium should be converted to a ban or whether it should be lifted.
But the question lies in the how. Just how will the implementation of the planned planting of 125 million seedlings be achieved and sustained?
We don't do it at one place. We do it in all the 47 counties. We have events, we have activities throughout.
The DP, who chaired the first meeting of the task force, warning it would not be business as usual.
This is not a PR exercise. In the past, we've had exercises that end up being photo ops and publicity stunts, or planting one tree here and 2 trees there.
The government ready and raring to make heads roll as well.
To be able to achieve the proper management of our forest resources, some sacrifices have to be made.
In its Vision 2030, the country hopes to have achieved the minimum 10% forest cover recommended by the United Nations. Only with the urgency at hand, that deadline now being pushed up 8 years.
We shifted from tree planting to tree growing. So we focus on planting where seedlings won't be taken care of and survival won't be guaranteed.
Maybe changing the narrative that exists at the moment about 2022 so that it doesn't become the political narrative about 2022 but the environmental narrative about 2022, that we can get 10% forest cover.
The multi-sectoral task force is expected to present a preliminary report within 14 days and a comprehensive one within 30.
It's an ambitious plan by a government that is already on the receiving end of critics who, some argue, that this is only a knee-jerk reaction by the government despite the need to end the wanton destruction of forests. Now, just how soon and how tenable their plans will be is a matter of wait and see. Jackie Maribe, Citizen TV in Nairobi.
A story also features on the Daily Nation this morning. Page 11, Ruto spare no effort to save trees. Task force has 14 days to present a preliminary report on the way forward. DP tells teams to make proposals even if sacrifices have to be made. Next to that story, illegal loggers arrested in crackdown. The story does continue. In related news, Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu has sued his Kitui counterpart Charity Ngilu for alleged incitement that led to the torching of 2 vehicles over accusations of ferrying charcoal. In the suit filed in Nairobi, Waititu wants the court to compel Ngilu to compensate the owners of the vehicles. The Cohesion Commission is in the meantime investigating 2 musicians for releasing a song that has been widely condemned as an attack and an insult to the Kamba community. Hassan Mugambi reports.
The charcoal war between Kiambu and Kitui counties Monday found its way to the corridors of justice. Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu suing Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu for alleged incitement. In his application filed at the Milimani Law Courts, Waititu wants the court to restrain Ngilu from making inflammatory remarks relating to charcoal business in the county. In his suit, Waititu says remarks attributed to Ngilu had led to the recent torching of a truck and a Toyota Probox that were transporting charcoal. Waititu asking the court to order Ngilu to compensate the vehicle owners. The court is set to determine the hearing dates for the case. The Kitui governor, who last week appeared before the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, has however denied inciting residents against charcoal traders, who most are said to be from Kiambu County. Waititu averring that Ngilu's remarks violated the rights of the owners of the vehicles as enshrined in the Constitution. Ngilu has insisted that the charcoal ban remains in force. Last week, hundreds of Kiambu residents deflated tires of about 100 vehicles, causing a huge traffic jam along the Nakuru-Nairobi highway as they demonstrated over Ngilu's alleged incitement. The irony of the suit is, however, not lost on observers. Waititu has in the past faced accusations of incitement. Last year, he was acquitted of hate speech charges following his arrest alongside 5 other MPs. The Cohesion Commission is also investigating 2 musicians, Isaiah and Waharaka, whose song Ikamba has sparked fury on social media platforms. The song, which criticizes Ngilu's action, has been condemned as an attack and an insult to the Kamba community. Hassan Mugambi, Citizen TV.
Waititu sues Ngilu over ban on charcoal trade. That story is on page 9 of the Standard this morning. The Kiambu County Chief has also accused her of issuing inflammatory statements. Next to that, of course, Kaparo says musicians inciting locals over charcoal trade ban to do with that song Ikamba. And I'm trying to see if at all there's any conversation with regard to that particular song online. Yes, Ezekiel Mutua says, my attention has been brought to a new Kikuyu song by Isaiah and Waharaka titled Ikamba that mocks the Kamba community and castigates Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu. Mike Mutua said, we should not allow our political differences to get this personal. Shame on the artists and producers as well. Well, that's the conversation online. MPs now say they will fight for the independence of Parliament in the wake of concerns of apparent manipulation and interference by the executive and other arms of government. Stephen Leto reports from Mombasa, where legislators are holding their first retreat since the August 8th election.
12th Parliament is just 8 months old, and already there are concerns that the independence of the House is being eroded through interference by the arms of government, including the executive and political parties. As the MPs retreated to Mombasa to deliberate on the legislative roles, these concerns took center stage.
Blind pursuit of party position should not blur our bottom line in terms of discharging the constitutional responsibilities in Parliament. This is the ultimate challenge to political party leadership and members in this Parliament. We must think and act beyond our political party interests to guarantee the electorates the governance they deserve.
Parliament was petitioned under Article 251 of the Constitution relating to the removal of holders of independent officers and constitutional commissions. When the House was exercising its mandate as required by the Constitution, the judiciary issued injunctions against the proceedings of a committee of the House.
But there must be another third arm of government that provides checks and balances with these 2 other arms of government, and that is the judiciary. And we must respect the judiciary. We have no option. We have to respect the judiciary and live with it.
And it's because there is no clear-cut demarcation on how the executive, or rather the party leadership, is supposed to behave when the Parliament is articulating an issue.
The Lawmakers Forum calling for respect to the principle of separation of powers.
That's why
Speaker Muturi further urging the government to ensure Parliament is well facilitated to perform its oversight role.
This is to say that members need access to timely, accurate and concise information to undertake the oversight functions particularly. I am a strong advocate of this school of thought.
Majority Leader Eden Dual and his minority counterpart John Mbadi pulling in different directions to defend their party's position in Parliament.
They are constantly misusing their so-called tyranny of numbers. May I remind you that even with your numbers, the responsibility on you is higher, and when it comes to law making, the old adage that you should make a law that you can trust with your enemy.
The minority will always have their say, and the majority will have their way. But when you have your say, and then you start throwing bottles, you start throwing water to the speaker, then the speaker, that is not Parliament, that is something else.
We may not, as minority, have the tyranny of numbers, but we have the tyranny of grace. and we are passionate, which we shall effectively use to check the majority party excesses.
The leader spoke in the wake of concerns by a section of Jubilee MPs that their party had gagged them against expressing themselves on some issues, and a crackdown on Jubilee rebels that saw 4 of them stripped from committee leadership positions. Members of the National Assembly are now raising concerns over the duplication of legislative and oversight roles by their sister house, the Senate, and wants that to be addressed in this 12th Parliament before setting a misleading precedent. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV, Mombasa County.
Yes, and the cartoon on the Daily Nation, today's cartoon on page 14 of the Daily Nation shows what they say are members post-election seminar 2018 Mombasa. This is a clear reference to what's happening with the members of the National Assembly. So there's no resist or boycott in seminars, benchmarking, etc. Someone answers, it's the hefty allowances, my dear. Wow. Time now for a break. When we come back, we discuss the big one on the front page of the Daily Nation. Raila team roots for Boma's power sharing formula in blast from the past that could overhaul Kenya's governance structures. The opposition wants a constitution that allows for sharing of power between the president and the premier. But how will we get there? A similar story, a different angle, but still on constitutional review. Page 13 of the Standard, Moi Kibaki were listed for Senate. Did you ever know that? The Parliamentary Select Committee on Review of the Constitution has been blamed for making drastic changes to experts' proposals. A proposal to have a 13-member Senate consisting of eminent Kenyans, including retired presidents, was dropped in an amended draft constitution in 2010. We'll be looking at those headlines with my news review team after the break.